For generations, Bigfoot has been pursued as a biological mystery, an undiscovered primate roaming the North American forests. Researchers have searched for bones, bodies, DNA, and clear photographs. The assumption has always been simple. If Sasquatch exists, it must be flesh and blood. But what happens when the encounters don't behave like biology? Tonight we're exploring the high strangeness of Bigfoot by longtime researcher Ron Moorhead and Mark Reeder, a man best known for his involvement in the legendary Sierra Sounds recordings captured by the remote mountains in California.
Can I correct you for a moment?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm Ron Meyer. Ron Moorhead is another person.
Oh, sorry. My bad. The research I did was wrong. Anyways, yeah, so that's a great start. Let's get into this. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourselves and maybe introduce yourselves as well.
So I know Ron Moorhead quite well, and he did produce the Sierra Sounds. But we also have recorded something we call the Sierra Sounds or Bigfoot Chatter when we did our CE6 protocol in Colorado. So a little background on myself. I'm a filmmaker. I had a production company, distribution company in the cable industry. Was a pretty major player back in the day. Rode that for a while. And eventually I got rid of the distribution part and just started producing stuff for myself and for other companies. And I got kind of hoodwinked into doing a series on Bigfoot called Chasing Bigfoot. You can find that online. A lot of people have seen it. It's a multiple 5-part series. It was my daughter who said, "I'll do that," when it was proposed. And I said, I didn't know anything about Bigfoot. Neither did Mark, And so as I did that series, I became convinced that there were people through interviews, probably like yourself, that had experiences of Bigfoot. But I didn't think they were lying, but they never really came up with any proof. There were stories of, I saw it walk in front of go by a tree, disappear. And eventually I came across this person called Jim Myers, the Sasquatch Outpost in Bailey, Colorado. And he suggested that Bigfoot was something interdimensional. And that piqued my interest because I had been interested in UFOs and UAPs and science fiction, and Mark has been into science fiction as well. And I thought, what the heck? Let's see if what it might mean if there was some connection between Bigfoot and UAPs now, or UFOs back in the day, as they call them. And I did this documentary called the Bigfoot Alien Connection Reveal, and it was a huge success. I looked into the what people were saying about UAPs and how they appeared to people and were mysterious all the time, and then I also expanded into exploring the paranormal side of Bigfoot and did some experiments and put it in the film. And it was a massive success. It's had over 10 million views and multiple streaming platforms, and it's changed a lot of people's situation for the better. They could talk about Bigfoot and the weirdness of their encounters, and from there I just kept pursuing, like, what is the nature of Bigfoot, and it was always elusive. And so I'll let Mark give you a little bit about his background.
Yes, please.
My background isn't quite as extensive as Ron's. I'm a science fiction and fantasy author for young adult and adult. Have a couple of series out. And Ron and I have collaborated on numerous books. The latest one is one that we are just finishing up called Convergence, which is about AI. But we've also done books on one called Simulation, which looks at the idea that everything around us is a simulation, that we're part of a simulation.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of gives you what the kind of broad strokes of what Ron and I deal with and when we're writing. We approach ideas from obliquely from outside the box. And in this particular instance, the high strangeness of Bigfoot, we're looking at it from a totally different point of view. One, first, that it's not some hairy creature running around in the woods. And secondly, is it trying to communicate with us? Not that we're looking for it, but it's actually looking for us.
Right. Yeah, and I've heard that before too. And the other stuff you're talking about too is very interesting. Are we trapped in some kind of weird, conspiracy theory? Are we part of some kind of simulation? Is any of this real? The more I hear about it, the more it's like, wait a minute, what? But yeah, I mean, I was kind of talking about that the other day on the podcast. It's so funny that you guys mention all that stuff because it just rings home. It's like, nope, yeah. I've talked about that stuff before. I have a lot of friends that believe that Bigfoot are just come as some kind of spirit, or there's some kind of just other entity, or maybe they're an otherworldly entity that can cross through portals and stuff like that. And so it just makes me wonder what's really going on with that, and how people can walk into the forest and they see the tracks, and then all of a sudden in the middle of nowhere they just end. And there's no other place for the Bigfoot have gone except for either up or disappear. So it does make sense. There's a lot of credible reports that say that basically where Bigfoot are highly elusive. I've had so many encounters with them, it's not even funny. I've actually never seen one disappear, but yeah, I mean, very strange that a lot of people have that same experience. I have a friend who lives out in the Sabine National Forest, and he had like a light come out of the back of a tree one day, and he didn't know it, or at night, he didn't know what it was. It terrified him, right? So he walked out there and he's looking, and he recorded entities just coming out of a tree, like a portal had opened up. And these entities just started pouring out one after another after another. And they weren't Bigfoot. I don't know what they were, but it makes me wonder if Bigfoot can do the same thing. So
your friend's experience is interesting to me because of the word that you used. He was terrified, and yet in encounter after encounter, some people say they're not terrified, that they're actually joyous. Mm-hmm. Some people say they're terrified, but in all these instances, whether they're joyous or terrified, they move toward this event, this happening. They don't run away from it. And that brings me back to the idea of, what is Bigfoot doing? Is Bigfoot actually communicating with us because it has something to share? And when we have this encounter, anybody has this encounter, instead of being chased away, they're actually drawn in to receive that information.
Yeah. The encounters I've had until, the one I had out in California, I used to investigate out in Black Star Canyon. I don't know if you guys have ever gone to Black Star Canyon. Very, very big hotspot. Ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, possible dogman sightings, and other things out there. Multiple murders have happened in the canyon, unfortunately.
Is that out by Sedona? Where's that located?
It's up in it's in Orange County, California. It's called Black Star Canyon. If you look it up, you'll be able to find it. But yeah, I mean, that's where my encounter started, and most of them were just like, okay, they're real, because I was a non-believer at the first time I saw one, and then of course my last encounter that I could actually see one was very close encounter, with a couple of feet away. It's something squatting down on the side of the hill, walking past it after literally just shook a bush back and forth on me, and was grunting, growling, and then took off up the creek and disappeared. I couldn't see where it went. It basically, I think it flanked me. It literally went up the side of a hill or reappeared on the other side of the mountain, or there was another one. And they literally, it sounded like a damn bulldozer. Half a mile. They chased me for half a mile out of there. So, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, you guys talking about the feeling of them, of being able to feel the presence. I think once you've actually had an encounter with one, for some reason that you just start to, you sense them. You can pick up on them. I know that's something that you guys talk about in your movie and stuff like that, where they basically you're sitting there and you're chanting and stuff like that, and then you can kind of feel their presence around you. That's pretty interesting. You guys want to talk about that a little bit?
So yeah, I can tie that in too. So at the time we did the Bigfoot Alien Connection reveal, it's when those videos were released of the Navy pilots um, on their radar and sighting, seeing things that are moving in ways that would be impossible for us or for anything we know in terms of our physics.
Right.
And and in some sense, what the hypotheses we're working with is that there's some sort of presence, ancient presence that's been here that can masquerade, put on the mask of these UAPs or Bigfoot or anything else it wants to. And that its purpose has always been to keep the mystery alive. And so we've been doing experiments to see if that's true. And in our book, we kind of provide evidence saying this is kind of what's happening. So if it can move around, this ancient presence can manifest as UAPs in the way they do, physical objects that defy all physics. It shouldn't be too hard for them to appear as a beast running in front of you, create a smell, create chatter like Ron Moore had captured and we captured. And in one of our investigations, the darn thing said my name, Ron, disembodied. That really freaked me out. And it wasn't just me, because there were other people in our group that said, "Oh, Ron, something's calling you," and
Yeah.
and so it wasn't just in my mind. So that's the hypotheses we're working with right now.
That's very interesting. So tell me about your experiments if you can.
So a couple of years ago, I got a movie coming out on near-death experiences. Are you familiar with that
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
concept? People are nearly dead, their brain shuts down, and they seem to go to a non-physical realm where they have experiences, but when they come back, they have a hard time articulating them or putting them into language. Now, there's examples of history where people have had these things without near-death experience. They're called mystical experiences. Um, and I was intrigued by one woman, a doctor who had two near-death experiences, and then she, after that, experienced UAPs and Bigfoot. And so we said, well, I'm working on a movie tying two paranormal hotspots together. So one is Broadcamp Crystal Mine in Arkansas, and the other's here in Bailey, Colorado. So let's go out and see what she was doing, and she could point out what she did. And we would come back to this location in Oklahoma, where we're staying at a resort, had cabins, and there was a fire circle. It was wet, and so in the spring, so no fire. But we sat around it, and I decided I'm going to do this thing I've never done before. I started with a mindfulness meditation, and then I followed it up with multiple A-E-I-O-U chants, which is those are the vowels that form the basis of all natural spoken language.
Hmm.
It's a chant that goes back to Egypt. One of my friends who was the director of the Monroe Institute got it from a shaman in Peru, a very famous one. And when we did the chant, um, we had, do you know what REM pods are and spirit
Oh, yeah.
boxes? And
Yeah.
so we had that going, and we got interactions through the REM pod of some presence
Hmm.
with both Alan, my son-in-law, and the woman who had the near-death experience. And then escaping, right? What is it when you get a voice recording that you haven't heard in real life, but when you play it back, you get it? You familiar with that term?
EVP. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. When we played back the video, there was a woman clearly saying, "This is freaking me out."
Wow. That's
And oh my
amazing.
God, it was so much clearer than any spirit box. It was perfectly spoken. And
Wow.
it was not Melinda, the doctor, because she's got a heavy Southern accent.
Yeah.
And then again at the last night, we said, let's do that again. It was quite something. So we did it again, except this time we all entered into this state of oneness between us all. And the sounds of the forest, which were loud at that time, frogs and crickets, sort of disappeared. And that was it. No interaction with the equipment. And then when we're leaving, all of a sudden, we were kind of filing out and going back to the car and to the cabin. This thing came crashing through the treetops of about 2-story deciduous trees, going horizontal from my perspective, and then kind of turned the corner where Alan and Dr. Greer were walking, and then crashed down in front of them, shaking the ground. And of course it was kind of dark. And when we got the cameraman who walked in a different direction, he felt the thump,
Mm-hmm.
from about 50 yards away.
Dang.
And when we went looking for the object, there was nothing, just
Wow.
nothing. And so for me, that was like, this is just too weird. I can't fathom this. I can't explain it. Alan and Dr. Greer felt, well, maybe it was a giant Bigfoot throwing this big rock through the trees, but my imagination couldn't go there. And so I said, okay, I've been trying to pursue Bigfoot's nature in filmmaking. I think I'll just quit there because I'm stuck with this mystery.
Yeah, definitely.
So fast forward to last summer, and Alan, who married my daughter, by the way,
Oh, cool.
took a couple of authors out to this place we call Church Creek. It's in Colorado. It's just in the national forest there. But it's got trails, and he had taken people there on just kind of like hikes, searching for Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And they got a REM pod interaction, and that kind of excited them to go back with another guy who's known as Mr. Bigfoot from Estes Park, Colorado, to go back there and just check it out. And when they went back, they heard, if you can believe it, in the sounds of Sierra Sound. You've heard the Sierra Sounds, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's got that high pitched kind of squeaky quality to it.
Mm.
They heard clear as bell, AIOU,
Wow.
and that freaked them out.
I bet.
But then they went back one more time. There was only one camera rolling, and it only picked up a little bit, and we could hear a little bit of the AIOU, but not the whole thing.
Hmm.
And it's confirmed it sounded like the Sierra Sounds.
Yeah.
They went back one more time, and this time they captured clearly something like proto-language. Same sound as Sierra Sounds or Bigfoot chatter.
Yeah.
And in some sense that pointed to proto-language. And so when Mark and I, we had this idea that maybe working with this idea that there's this presence that's doing that, the same thing that masqueraded as these UAPs, was producing that sound. And that was pointing to, hey, there's this thing called language. And when us human beings got language, a long time ago,
Yeah.
that changed everything. That's really what made us human. Because we could not be thinking anything, we would not be building any technology. We'd be doing nothing but a bunch of monkeys
Right.
crap at each other. So, Mark, you want to jump in a little bit about the history of language and
Yeah, please do.
Well, one of the things that researchers can't pinpoint is the exact moment where language occurred. But we can look at how it could have developed. And one of the things that Ron and I realized is that animals communicate,
Right.
but human language is levels and levels above the way, say, a squirrel communicates to another squirrel. I got a nut over here.
Mhm.
So we went back. I watch a show on PBS called Eons, and it's a fantastic show where they basically explore the universe from the Big Bang to the present.
Hmm.
And one of the oldest forms of communication among humans would be drumming or music. And that probably started with drumming. And the very interesting thing about drumming is that it's auto-regressive, it's recursive. It builds on what happened before. So if you're on, when we posit this in the book, if you're a hunter and you've just come back from slaying a mastodon, which is going to feed your clan for the next 8 months or so and provide clothes as well as bones for making spearheads or tools such as needles to sew animal skins together. You're going to want to tell your audience, hey, this happened, and here's how it happened. Well, if you don't have an actual language like we do right now, you're hearing me talk about this idea of a clan doing this, and it's very clear. You can see the images in your head and everything else. Well, you don't have that language 50, 60,000 years ago, but you need to communicate it. And the simplest form of communication is drumming. So you start drumming, and each note in that drumming builds builds on the one before it, and you tell the entire story. So this autoregressive nature would then, as humans develop speech or sounds themselves, the human larynx, the throat, the box, that all develops over time to be able to accommodate what Ron talked about being the proto-language of the five vowels, A, E, A, O, U. Those five sounds, you can see how those five sounds would also be like drumming, like music, be autoregressive. They would build on one another. So a very simple sound like ah, you might put a guttural noise on the end of it, ah, and you'd be holding up a club with an axe on a stone axe on the end of it, and the people around you would recognize, oh, Dave over here is holding up an axe, and that becomes a word for it. But it all goes back to the proto-language of the vowel sounds and to the autoregressive nature of music, which builds on it, which builds on whatever went before.
Wow.
And
So right now, let me just jump in here.
Oh yeah, please.
You're familiar with the large language models that everybody's talking about, the new form of artificial intelligence?
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about it. Yeah, yes.
And so they are built on the same autoregressive nature. Doesn't have any contact with the outside world. It's just the statistical relationship with words, and it's generating. It's called generative AI.
Mm-hmm.
Just generating the next word, just as I'm doing right now. And I'm probably prompting you, and you're getting some images, and maybe some words come up that want to follow what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so one of the coolest things when we took the experiment to Church Creek and we did this AIOU chant and the meditation, is we picked up actual drumming out of nowhere.
Hmm.
Bump, bump, clear as day,
It's crazy.
isn't it?
That's interesting. Yeah, the drumming.
And so here again, this presence maybe is pointing, saying, pay attention to language. That's important if you want to understand what's going on. Other things we picked up before my daughter and the team recorded the really the first really clear kind of Bigfoot chatter. They experienced this kind of stenchy smell that sometimes people attribute to Bigfoot.
Right.
Um, and then again, when we were doing our meditation, that same smell showed up again.
Huh.
And we, at a certain point in my investigations, I started using what are called sensitives or psychics
Right.
because they have this ability to kind of sense a presence.
Right.
And so you probably talked to a bunch of them that say they communicate with them and they feel them, and
Right.
they have real. There's families of them, they can talk about that, and they have that sense of, energetic thing, that they call Bigfoot as communicating with them.
Right.
And at a certain point, I started using these people when I do investigations. So of course, we had two kind of well-known ones that put on seminars and retreats on this test of the idea, that there's a presence here masquerading as Bigfoot,
Yeah.
and they definitely picked up on Bigfoot being there. Um, Everybody felt this wave of positive energy going through their bodies. Um, they felt it more intensely than others, more or less, but it was very profound for everybody. Did you ever have that kind of experience?
Yeah. I mean, once I had my first sighting, after that, I could feel them around me. I could feel that they were around. And, I always felt, till my last experience, I always felt pretty comfortable um, with them. I mean, after my very first experience seeing one, it was silvery gray, just standing there in the clearing, basically at dusk, with 30 other people around me. I was doing a ghost tour, believe it or not, and they had been throwing rocks at us, just trying to. I don't know if it was trying to get our attention or scare us out of there or what it was doing. Like you were talking about, trying to get our attention. But we sat there and had a staring contest with it for a long period of time, and then it finally walked off into the brush, grunting and growling. Oh, we got a cat. Move, bud.
Hmm.
Keep going,
That's
dude.
cool.
That's Binks. He likes to walk in. He likes to be in front of the camera. Anyways, and then after that, I just started having encounter, daytime, nighttime, seeing him standing there watching me. It wasn't anything scary. It was just like, oh, okay. One walked right in front of us, basically stepped over a barbed wire fence, walked across, stepped over another barbed wire fence, and walked down into the creek. And I learned kind of where they were and how they migrated through the area, and started getting them on trap cams and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I mean,
So,
it was
again, I can turn to Mark, and there's a long history of people like that bringing messages. Some people say from the other side, they can sense these things. You want to elaborate on that, Mark?
Well, yeah, let's start off first with the idea of the sensitives or the psychic, and
right.
probably the oldest one familiar in Western civilization is the Oracle of Delphi, which was a woman chosen to represent or to answer people's questions, and represented the god Apollo. So these sensitives are completely all around us, have been from the earliest times. Even if you go back 50,000 years ago, there are several what are called Venus figurines that figure prominently in among our ancestors, and these are women who would help the clan answer questions for clan members and see into the future. So there's the idea of sensitives and psychics has been with us for probably since we developed before we developed any kind of language, and it continues this present day. You have people who dowsers who look for water or look for ley lines across the country. This all, for me, ties back into what Ron was talking about the presence. Historically, people have been sensitive to a presence out there, whether it's Odysseus appealing to his patron goddess Athena for some way to break through the walls of Troy, and he comes up with the Trojan horse, for example. Or Moses with the burning bush, communicating with God. Later on, he climbs up the top of Mount Sinai, and he gets the Ten Commandments. Muhammad talking to the angel Jibril brings the Quran back from the cave where he had been meditating. So historically, we have all of these figures. In more recent times, you might look at somebody like the musician Enya. He claims that he gets inspiration from non-physical states.
Wow.
So this idea of a presence has been with us through millennia and continues to the present day. And people, it isn't just, I want to find my words carefully here. It isn't just that people get visions of something. We all have downloads of interesting ideas. No, this is more like actually talking to or being influenced by a presence that says, go here and do this. Now, that's very simplified, but I'm just going to simplify it for now. Go here and do this. And if you do that, you will come up with something unique and wonderful that will expand your horizon a little bit. Now, the interesting thing about that is as soon as your horizon is expanded this much, you start asking questions.
Right.
The mystery deepens, and suddenly your horizon expands more and more and more and more, whether it's technologically, or it's with music or writing or a system of government, for example. So the mystery, this presence, continues to open the doors to this mystery a little wider, which makes the mystery even bigger. So the doors have to get wider, and it seems like there's no end to it. Though, one thing that's really interesting in the last 10 years is the development of LLMs, large language models, and AI seem to be mimicking how humans interact with this presence almost. And Ron can talk much more about that than I can, because he and I have countless conversations about this, and I'm always asking him questions about it.
Awesome. Well, we're kind of running out of time. We have about 2 more minutes left. So anyways, yeah, why don't you guys wrap this up? Ron, you want to wrap it up with a conclusion here?
So we have a book coming out at the beginning of April called The High Strangeness of Bigfoot.
Right.
And a corresponding movie called The High Strangeness of Bigfoot. So I suspect, if you remember the title and you go to Amazon, you'll be able to find it, or plug it into Google, and you'll probably be able to find the movie on YouTube.
Right. And all those links will be down below, guys. If you're interested in that, his link to the book and the movie will also be down there as well, so you guys can go check that out.
So we'll have to provide that to you, when they become available, if that's okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We can put that down there and later go back and put it back in the link.
So do you think we're crazy or not?
No. The more, as Mark was, saying, the wider your horizon gets, I always call it a rabbit hole, because the more I research, the deeper the hole gets. As he was saying, you guys talk about the same stuff I do, just in different terms. It's just, like I said, I feel like my life is like the X-Files. The more I dig, the more I find, the more trouble I seem to get myself into. So, yeah. But, it was a pleasure to have you guys both on. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for coming on today. And
thank you, Matt.
We will catch you guys on the next one.
It's been fun.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys again. Appreciate you.
Take care.
Take care, Matt.
Bye, guys.
Bye.